So we do have Dehorsey on Sylvanas, Abrolian on Kael'thas, Zugrak on Thrall, Marsh on Anub'arak, and Winterheart on the sole support Tyrande. For the red team, we have Militia on Johanna, Deadbeak on Li Ming, Hanbi Hasaki on Malfurion, Suspected on Lunara, and the Muffin Man on Zagara. A lot of well-known names if you're on the GM or Master ladder for Hero League. Muffin Man's been around for a while. Suspected has been a Master player that's around for a while. Marsh on Anub'arak, obviously everyone knows who that is, and Zugrak on Thrall. This is not a PPL game. I usually wouldn't cast PPL games from replays anyway. I just cast PPL games live. We do see the bot lane Sylvanas cheese. Actually, whenever there's a Sylvanas on the team, you have to expect this cheese. There's a 50-50 chance it's going to happen. The normal thing of going mid and whatever, you know, clearing the wave, because it's so standard, it's easy to play around if you have something that allows you to cheese. Anub'arak Beetles allow you to cheese. Zagara minions allow you to cheese. Sylvanas allows you to cheese. Hammer allows you to cheese. Kharazim actually just allows you to cheese because of the way Transcendence works. As long as he's hitting the building, you won't lose too much health. I really, you know, think that this is something you always have to be aware of as a possibility. The higher you go on ladder, because it's not that hard to coordinate. You know, you leave once the tower is dead. Just get out. The Tankle zone for us, which Marsh does a really good job doing, actually, with the Hails there. Beat Snake 89, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it a lot. No spoilers. Zagara calling out the correct play, making sure they get the soak. We do see Johanna rotating up into the top lane. Reasonable wait for this. Is pre-patch, so Night Take Spawn still an option. See Volatile Acid picked up. A little bit unusual. Moonburn Mouth, Astral Presence Li Ming. On this map, that's really unusual. On any globe-rich map, you almost always see Power Hungry, because Power Hungry gives you more mana back. And gives you the ability power. And whenever you're fighting around Terrors, the Terrors regularly drop globes. They drop between, like, I think 5 to 7 globes during their lifespan. No, I think is it 2 to 4? There's some variance. I don't think it'd be... But you're always going to have globes on the Terror fights. There's lots of camps, you're going to get globes there, and you're going to be in lane a big part of the game, pushing with the Terror. And as the Terror instantly clears the wave, they pick up the globe. You get that globe. So Astral Presence is a niche talent on BOE and Cursed, because you often have fights that go for long periods of times where you don't get globes. Those are the only two maps where that's consistently true. Every other map you get globes frequently enough that Power Hungry is always better than Astral Presence. That's if you're not going Force Armor. Like, sometimes you need the survivability from Force Armor. Zugrak just sitting in this bush. It's pretty funny. You got Mouth just clearing this out real quick. Zagara ends up getting picked off in the tri-lane. Makes sense, because Tyrande. We didn't see that happen, but I guarantee you Tyrande was involved. Actually, I can't actually highlight Tyrande. It's unfortunate. And both teams are doing something really important on Garden of Terror that I emphasize a lot, but they're prioritizing the small seed camps. There are 180 seeds per night phase. 15 of them are in this camp, 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 and then there's 60 in the Big Terror. But you want to get the small seed camps first, because the small seed camps often are the difference between having a second Terror on night 3 or 4. If you prioritize the small camps, you'll usually end up with the same number of seeds overall, plus or minus like 5 if you'd gotten the big one first. But going into the second, third, fourth, and fifth night phases, you will slowly start growing a 10 to 20 seed lead over teams that don't prioritize the small camps. And that will eventually result in a second or even sometimes a third Terror if you can manage to use your Terrors to snowball. So always prioritize the small seed camps. If you can get 3 of the small key camps every night and then get 1 Terror, you're in really, really good shape, because then you're 15 seeds ahead every single night. And we see Zugrak knows this. He's trying to get the small seed camp, but Suspected not having any of that. Him and Malfurion and Johanna are going to grab it very effectively. And as a result, you know, both teams doing the same thing, they both ended up with 30 seeds. Blue team invaded here. Red team had to counter-invade here to keep the seeds even. If they hadn't had this invasion, they would have ended up 45 to 15 and then had the both terrors left available for the fight. 4 for blue, not 4 for red, which means red has to trade terrors regardless if they wanted to invade or not. Blue team, on the other hand, is thinking about invading. Marsh is up here angling. He's going to try and walk in. He just wants to walk in and pick up the seeds. See, red team is very carefully picking up the seeds, making sure that is not allowed to happen. Marsh is on the mount, just like, these are mine now. Stealing, and this is another thing. This is another thing you want to do. If you have an escape, if you have a reliable escape that allows you to just leave a fight, which in Anubrak's case, you know, he has burrow charge, especially with Underking. He can go all the way out of this wall. He can be like over here and burrow charge to here and be totally fine. Hide in the bush, stay mounted, walk in when the seeds are on the ground, pick some up, and leave. Muradin can do this, ETC can do this, Anubrak can do this very well. Zeratul can do this. Murky can do this because it doesn't matter if he dies. You can send Misha in because it doesn't matter if Misha dies and she can just pick up the seeds for you. There's lots of heroes who have, you know, ways. Either it doesn't matter if they die or they have a really good escape. They can just go in and steal seeds. And this, again, follows up on that small seed camp. You want to get the small seed camps. You want to get as many seeds as possible per night phase. Stealing seeds is a really good way of doing it. Because every seed you steal is +1 seed for you and -1 seed for your opponent. So blue team got the message a little bit late that they wanted to fight. And here's the problem. If the blue team had all stayed bottom and done this terror while Marsh went up and stole seeds and the night phase was over right now, this would be 36 plus 60, so it'd be 96 seeds. They'd be 4 off. Whereas red team would have been 16 off. And then going into the next night phase, it would have been really easy for both teams to get a terror, but, you know, next night phase and next night phase would have happened. But now, since this terror isn't done, red team can rotate down and contest, and they have an opportunity of getting a terror, like straight up on the first night. Nazebo, not such a good example of how to a hero that can steal seeds, since he doesn't have an escape of any kind. Suspected goes pretty deep, gets a stun chain, gets marked, ends up getting out just fine. Marsh is very low, has Underking, has Zero Charge, is going to be able to get out of here. And at this point, the low health on blue team should be concerning because of leaning resets. And we start to see the Thrall goes down, that first reset going to happen, the Militia is going to get so low. The well is gone in the bottom lane. Losing the tri-lane in the bottom ends up being very significant here, as it turns out. And they're just forced to back off. Suspected very, very low. Is going to be able to get out of here. Zagara ends up going down. And if they'd had that well available, they could have tapped and re-engaged, but losing the bottom lane ended up being hugely significant for this fight. Wells matter. I would actually go so far as to say wells are the most important structures on the map, except for keeps. Except for maybe core, actually. A little bit of chain bomb spreading going on. And helping out his team late by helpfully setting them all on fire. They do back off in time and manage to re-engage. With the Thrall dead, this is a nice fight for them. They are going to be able to get a terror off of this if they can get even one additional pick here. The massive Condemn comes down. Zugrig is low, but not so low that he can get forced out of the fight. Marsh, however, has to use Burrow Charge defensively just to get away. And at this point, they can rotate back up. They can burn this terror down very quickly with the Lunara Poison, with the damage from Li Ming and Zagara. They nail it. Would I go so far as to say all wells matter? Yeah, sure. Hashtag all wells matter. It should be one of the ranged heroes, not me. When it comes to making a decision about who you're going to take out of the fight forever, or for the duration of the terror, like sometimes in DK you don't have a choice. There's whoever's nearby gets into it, because that's. But in terror you always have a choice about who's going to back. It shouldn't be the tank, because you want your tank available to zone for your squishy heroes. The Terror can kind of be a tank in that sense with Polymorph and just the threat of damage, but realistically, a real tank has better tools for it. It shouldn't be your support because you want healing, so you can sustain a push for a longer period of time. Usually, in a properly drafted composition, a Bruiser is the best option, but there's no Bruiser here. It is triple ranged. And, okay, so it's not the tank of support. The other 3 heroes are usually some kind of damage. Even a Bruiser usually is technically some kind of damage. GB Naka, thank you for the follow. So the question is, who does the different damage? Li Ming has burst damage. Zagara has sustained damage. Lunara has sustained damage. Well, if I have a choice between burst, sustain, and sustain, shouldn't I put one of the sustained damage dealers in the Terror so that I'm not giving up a entire role that I just will no longer have access to while she's in the Terror? And it's a really simple dynamic. You look at your team comp and you'd be like, which hero is slightly redundant with another hero? If you have 2 supports, one of the supports can be considered to be a little bit redundant. If you have 2 warriors, and they're both like tanking warriors, like if you have Muradin and ETC, which sometimes happens, one of them should go in the Terror, right? That's the very simple, especially pre-level 10, that's the entirety of the equation. You're looking at it, you'd be like, who's redundant in my team comp? Who does the exact same thing as someone else in my team comp? We'll put that person in there. So it should be Zagara or Lunara. Once you're post 10 and heroics are a factor, sometimes it's the person who has the longest cooldown heroic and they just used it. That's a critical, and they just used it. If their heroic is available, if you have 5 heroics that are all available, you go back to the who's redundant question, right? But if and Li Ming gets resets, right? So her heroic's always available. But if say Zagara goes Maw, and Zagara just used Maw, put Zagara in the Terror. So the choice between Zagara and Lunara, Lunara's heroic comes back up all the time. Zagara's has a long cooldown if she went Maw. If she went Nidus, the equation changes again because Zagara can strangle the map while the Terror split pushes. So you should put Lunara in the Terror, and Zagara and Nidus is around, and Li Ming, Malfuri, and Johanna help push with the Terror because they can secure the Terror secure the safety of the Terror very effectively. Lunara with poke, Johanna with heal, and Malfurion with healing and mana sustain. Yeah, so chat, Osterman, what about ETC just use Mosh? If ETC just use Mosh, put ETC in the Terror. It's 120-second cooldown. It will be up as it'll be up, as the Terror dies, basically, if you get the maximum value out of the Terror. It's perfect. But pre-10, the question is really simple, because heroics are not a factor. Post-10, you should factor in heroics. Even as a Soul Tank ETC, assuming you have a Bruiser. If you're triple ranged, if this was ETC instead of Johanna and this was triple ranged, you can't do that. You actually need the tank to stay out of the Terror whenever you have triple range, because triple range is so incredibly fragile in the current burst meta of Heroes of the Storm. You need some sort of melee hero to zone for the team. So it's always going to be slightly comp dependent, but these are the overall guidelines. And you can look at your comp and apply the guidelines and be like, oh, it obviously should be this person, or oh, it obviously is this person. That's assuming everyone pilots the Terror equally well. If, for some reason someone on your team is a really shitty Terror pilot, just don't let them take the Terror, regardless of whether or not they're the correct hero to do so. Piloting the Terror is not intuitive for everyone, but, assuming a game where everyone can pilot the Terror well. But a lot of people find it difficult to make the correct choices about when to team fight versus the Terror, when to get the structure value of the Terror, when to defend with the Terror. Because the Terror is not just a pushing entity. It actually does so much damage to heroes. It has instantaneous wave clear, so sometimes you just want to use it to push waves up and pressure the map. Sometimes you want to run around with it and distract while your team split pushes someplace else, especially if you have split pushing heroes, like Zagara. Especially if the mount speed changes, even Gazlo is pretty amazing. Gazlo actually has one of the biggest jumps in win rate with the mount speed changes, apparently, over the last few days. Mostly in Bronze, Silver, and Gold League, which is crazy because he was already a pretty high win rate hero in Bronze, Silver, and Gold League. But Both teams are sort of pushing out their lanes, clearing waves, grabbing camps at this point. Whenever you have a Tehran, you ideally want to be aggressive. You want to get the value out of that mark. The blind Lunar Flare from Winterheart. Deadbeat does juke it with the teleport there. Militia, not quite as lucky. Didn't even Iron Skin out of it. Ends up getting caught, but it doesn't matter too much because Johanna, right next to the towers, is usually going to be safe. 10 picked up for both teams. We do see Maw overnight as Worm picked up. So a lot of potential for splitting team fights right now. Marsh tanks some power shots, opts to burrow charge out. Is 100% safe. That increased range actually keeping him safe. He could have gotten re-engaged on with Blessed Shield there if he didn't have that extra range. Extra range is really, really good. Suspected ends up getting caught here, but it's just going to be a Lunara thing. Blessed Shield for the heal. Wailing Arrow for the counter initiation. Ends up being not very valuable. Oberlin tries to get the gravity lapse on Muffin Man, but ends up missing, so no kill potential there. Marsh needs to back, and it's unfortunate. Ooh, here's what we talk about. Damage is not always about securing kills. Damage is often about forcing people to back or forcing people to use tap. If you're trading damage with an opponent in lane and they have to tap first, and then you continue to trade damage with them effectively, and then they have to back, you can push that lane up, or the enemy team has to rotate someone down to help you out, or to help them out while they back, right? If you can chunk someone out right before an objective, yes, killing them is better, but if you can chunk someone out right before an objective and they're forced to back, Marsh is here right now. The tank is here in his Nexus. Which means that these seeds are free. You can aggress onto their side of the map safely, knowing you're in a 5v4 scenario for the next, like, 8 seconds. Sometimes doing damage and forcing them back is just as good as killing them. And with the mount speed changes, it's actually even better than it was before the mount speed changes. And you can see they got the kill on the Tehran. They got the kill on the Tehran, but they won that fight exclusively because Marsh had to back, so Marsh wasn't there at the start of the fight, which means they didn't have a tank. They didn't have a front line for the zone. Tehran ended up going down. As soon as Tehran's down, blue team has to back off. They don't have a choice. So the top goes uncontested to the red team. I'm going to tab out real quick. You guys get to watch that for a second. I'm going to message NECA on Skype. See if he's a little bit more available. Here's NECA. NECA. Bother. Okay. Zuggerg has the highest win ratio in PPL. I believe that. Zuggerg's a really good... We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. This is something I see said a lot and it bothers me. Drafting doesn't matter if you're better than your opponents. Drafting doesn't matter if you're better than your opponents. But by the very nature of MMR, by the very nature of Hero League, you're usually up against people who are roughly at your skill level. Right? Which means that drafting matters in Hero League. Drafting matters in Unranked Draft. Drafting matters in professional games. Drafting matters in Panda Pro League. Because the people you're up against are close to where you are. Maybe you're a little bit better, maybe you're a little bit worse, but you're close together, which means drafting matters. And I think the best example of this is Zugrug has an incredibly high win rate in PPL. He is number 2 on the ladder right now, and Zugrug has a very strong grasp of drafting. Zugrug, I know for a fact, has done hours, literal hours of mock drafts with almost anyone who would mock draft against him. It gives him ideas. It makes him think about the order drafts go in, the compositions that are possible. And if you know what's good on a map, but then you understand how to make sure you secure those heroes and what heroes are good with those heroes, and you draft them in the right order, your comps will be much stronger. And if you draft a stronger comp for the map than the other team does, all you have to, and you're evenly skilled, all you have to do is execute your comp and you just win the game. They have to outplay you in order to beat a stronger comp. Drafting matters if teams are even. Drafting ceases to matter a little bit if teams are uneven. But in the vast majority of cases, MMR is pretty accurate, so teams are even, so drafting matters a ton. And the people in PPL who have a very strong grasp on drafting are shooting to the top of PPL consistently. I think that's the best real-world example we have of that just being a fact. Zugrug has been on multiple pro teams. He's not currently on a team, I don't believe. Oh, he's on, he's on Red Team. He's currently on Red Team, which is participating in Bloodlust. They did win the qualifying bracket for Bloodlust, so they will be on Bloodlust, going to Bloodlust this weekend. It's hard to keep track. What's the difference between Panda Pro League and Hero League? Panda Pro League is an in-house league started by Panda Global that only accepts people who have achieved Grandmaster or have been to a professional LAN event as a player. You queue in for it the same way that you would queue in for Hero League. There's a little app that you download, but it's custom games. You don't have to pick your hero in advance. You pick the draft, and then you do your draft, and you pick who's playing what hero, which makes a huge difference because you're not forced into this awkward order of, well, I don't play tanks. Even though this would be the ideal time to pick a tank, I don't play tanks, so we have to pick them. We can't pick a tank right now, right? And there's comms, so those are huge differences. Huge, huge, huge differences. The Godma securing kills. Muffin Man's a very good player. And I want to emphasize this. Marsh was forced to back here. Marsh was here and riding out when his team got invaded trying to take a small camp here. He ended up being like right about here when Tyrande got killed. Blue team was forced to back off. Red team burned this. Sylvanas actually got zoned out here, so she was above. The rest of blue team went down, tried to secure the Terror. Red burned this because they were as 5. They rotated down, forced to fight here, which they forced blue team to back off. Got the majority of the seeds bottom after having gotten all the seeds top, and got a Maw here, which secured them 2 more kills. Ignoring that Maw, like pretend that Maw didn't happen. This is a 5v5 scenario right now. They didn't get those 2 free kills. They still got all the seeds. All of that happened because Marsh got chunked here. That small event where Marsh was just not with his team for a little while because he was chunked caused this snowball effect where red team has a Terror after this night phase and blue team does not. This is how important trading damage in lane is, effectively. It gives you tempo on the map. It's a huge deal. Like, red team would not have a Terror right now if they hadn't played that the way they did. They just wouldn't have a Terror. They only got a Terror by 6 seeds. Blue team could have denied the Terror completely if they hadn't had to lose that fight. It's a huge deal. 13 going to be picked up first for the red team. All they have to do is zone and then force a couple more minion waves and they'll have it. All their heroics will be available as well. Muffin Man a little bit low on mana, but he has a Malfurion, so that doesn't actually matter. Innervate should be up shortly. And 13 picked up. Zugrug trying to zone for his team, trying to push out. Will eventually actually manage to catch Muffin Man. Train comes down really late here. This is the thing about Tranquility. Tranquility doesn't heal for enough to save people from dying. What Tranquility does is Tranquility makes it so that the damage you take at the start of a fight doesn't actually put you in kill range. It doesn't let the enemy team, burst you out and secure a kill. If you're trying to pop Tranquility to prevent someone from dying, you already popped Tranq too late. You need to have popped it like 7 seconds sooner. So despite being down to Talent here, despite this being an advantage fight for the red team, they're actually going to lose it. But they're gonna trade Terrors for it. Zugrug's Terror is gonna go down. Johanna ends up going down as well. That's really bad. This is now a 2 for none off this uneven fight. And the Terror is still alive. It does eventually go down. Yeah. That fight can mostly be attributed to vulnerability from Tron getting a lot of value, but Trank also being popped very, very, very late. Tron, again, a little bit overextended. Didn't pick up her 13 talent. We talked about this in the previous game, but you really want to lock your talents in instantly. I mean, I don't think she's going to take Sprint, but if she had taken Sprint, she'd be alive right now. She had that option. Zugguard with the peel, the wolf peel. The Horsey going to go down. That ends up being a counter kill of 3 for 2. So it ended up going in red team's favor in the end. But Marsh with the brave, I'm going to say brave hearthing location. Aggressive burrow charge in. If you have like something like a Tychus and an Anubrak ever burrow charges in like that, just kill him. Once a tank has hard engaged using their escape mechanic, just kill them. Turn around, focus them down. They should die. So they opt to back out, which is the safer decision whenever you have Lunara, just because her damage is so extended over time. But you see another burrow charge in, but with the juke, with the leaping strike juke, we are going to see Johanna a little overextended, ends up going down. And again, Tranquility popped pretty late, honestly. But it has such a long cooldown, normally Malfurions are very reluctant to use it. We do see a lot of damage coming out of Li Ning here. Starting to get some value. But red team extremely low on mana, extremely low on mana at least. Kael'thas ends up getting caught. So Marsh is here. They know the entire enemy team was here, and Kael'thas was here. As a general rule, you want to be between where your tank is and where the enemy team is. So if your tank's here and you're Kael'thas, you actually want to rotate down like here and help him with this camp. And that puts them, your team, that puts the enemy team there, your tank here, and you here. Just stand between the enemy team and your tank. It's like the easiest thing to do as a ranged assassin. Instead, he just dies. Could also have just gone like further over this way, so that he was at least behind Thrall. Although Thrall is also very low. Yeah, there's been a shift over the last couple weeks of analyzing replays that are not just throne games. I might have to change the name of the show. But as long as the stream's enjoying it, as long as you guys are learning something from replay analysis, I'm okay with it. So all the top seeds are gone except for that one someone forgot. 16 almost here for red team. They can soak it mid. They also get it passively if they just wait like half a second, but they actually don't want to do that. They don't want to get the seeds. Tranquility also going to be available in 10 seconds. So this is a fight where they want to wait 10 seconds but opt not to. It turns out to be the right decision. They instantly get the kill on Kael'thas. Kael'thas gets some 16. And again, talent tier advantage. If you hit a talent tier in the middle of a fight, make sure you select your talent instantaneously, because fighting up a talent tier is one of the strongest things you can do. Solid RVR, thank you for the follow. Fighting up a talent tier is one of the strongest things you can do, but it doesn't count unless you actually pick a talent. We can see Muffin Man, who's a very strong player, instantly locks in that Mutalisk. Right? I imagine we're gonna see, and you can see the difference, right? This is the difference. I think everyone else on this team. Let me look. I believe everyone else on this team is a master player. Muffin Man is a grandmaster player. You can see that tiny difference. He locks in his 16 talent instantaneously. The moment he hits 16, everyone else waits till the fight's basically over and then locks it in. And you can see Li Ming and Johanna haven't even locked it in. There are very small differences between very high-level players and, you know, average high-level players. And this is one of them. Making sure you take advantage of every small advantage that you can get in the game, including instant locking a talent even in the middle of a team fight. Tranquility popped here just to top everyone off. This is actually a reasonably used Tranquility, to be honest. And it's much better to use it like this at the start of a fight and keep everyone high than it is to try and use it to recover from damage, because that just won't ever work. Marsh goes in, tries to steal some additional seeds. Pulls it off, actually, so both teams are going to have a terror tonight. Marsh with the clever seed stealing all game long. DeHorsey gonna die. Oh my god. Is he gonna Hearth in time? He's gonna Hearth in time. Maybe? 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 No. Just Lunara thinks. Hey, the one time I used Pyroblast on Johanna, she actually died. Yeah, so anyone who's watching, if you want to submit a replay, it won't be reviewed today, but that's the Discord server, Educational Scrims Discord server. Oh, actually it's... Okay. 1 second. Yeah, Bottler's dead. That's the Educational Scrims Discord server. There's a replay share channel on the Discord server. If you want to have your replay analyzed, feel free to submit it to that channel or email it to me at cavalierguest@gmail.com. That's the email specifically for the stream. I don't use it for anything else. I have not heard back from NECA, which means he's probably not at his computer, because he usually just lives at his computer. So he's probably out and about, and good for him. Oh, speaking of which, 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. I actually got emailed a replay that I totally forgot about. Because so many people submit them on the replay server, or on the replay server. It's literally called Garden of Terror. How did this happen? What did I want to ask NECA? NECA's the person responsible for coding Bottler. So if Bottler's down, he's the one who's going to get it back up. I don't think I can do all these replays tonight, by the way, guys. So many people submitting replays. I'm going to have to start, like, thinking of categories for them or something. At some point, I would actually like to play the game, too. Replay analysis is super fun, but I just realized over the last week that I've actually spent more time casting and doing replay analysis and videos than I have actually playing the game. Although my playing the game is not the most popular part of my stream. And here we see a brutal push in by Red. They have an advantage in the sense that they're ahead in tempo. Their Terror got onto their side of the map a little bit faster. They're going to start pushing in. They want to get this keep wall. Marsh with the aggressive burrow charge in. Notice... Oh, he's going to die. He's going to die. It's going to hurt. Anytime you dive in as a Nubarak like that with the burrow charge in, you have to just instantly walk back out. One of the reasons that Shed Exoskeleton is such a dominant talent at level 7 in terms of win rate is it allows you to walk back out. You can burrow charge in, Shed Exoskeleton, and just immediately leave. I would actually go so far as to say if you don't have Shed Exoskeleton or Locust Swarm available, you can never burrow charge in aggressively. Because of how fragile a Nubarak is. Yeah, that happened a few weeks ago. When I first, like the second week of TGT, or TGT, no one submitted a replay, so I was like, okay, well no one submitted a replay, so we can't do TGT today. But that's the only time that's happened. It's that one time. It was the second week of the show. That's fair. But I am a lot more popular lately, and I have you guys to thank for that. All of my loyal, regular viewers, and I appreciate it a lot. Bot lane getting pushed in just sort of passively. And at this point, Red Team doesn't have a terror. Red Team could potentially poke this keep. You know, they have Lunara, they have Li Ming. They could just sort of poke the keep down. They opt not to do that. What they're doing is the safest possible play. They're backing up and getting 20. You know, they're going to grab this camp because they feel like they can do it safely. Anything they can feel like they can do safely, they're going to do. But they're just going to soak 20, and then once they're 20, it'll be 20 versus 17 or 18, they'll force a fight.
Your world is upside down.
And look, they're going for the distraction. We're going to see Suspected put some free damage on this keep. They're trying to keep this lane pushed in. They're going to back off. Right? They were thinking about, can we get the keep? It's so low, can we get it? They opt not to do it. They're just going to grab all of the merc camps they can to put pressure on all the lanes. Need more viewers so I can get those sweet quality options. Soon. I don't know. If I was a partnered streamer, I would guarantee the quality options. Here's something they do that's absolutely critical, actually, and here's something that red team's doing way better than blue team. Blue team capped this instantaneously, which means it's going to push up, you know, to here pretty quickly. It's going to be relatively easy to clear out. Red team's waiting until the night phase actually starts to cap both camps at the same time. So the night phase is going to start, and as the night phase starts, that's when their camps get to the lane, and now it's easy. See, again, this is already some free damage on this siege camp. That free damage... Oh, even if you don't clear a wave, even if you don't clear a mercenary camp, if your waves are even, and you put any damage at all onto the enemy team's wave, your wave will win. Right? So that free orb, even though it didn't clear, we're just gonna keep it. We're gonna ignore what's going on top and bottom. Look at that. The Siege Giant ends up dying basically for free. The Siege Giant is gonna clear this wave. And they're gonna lose one Siege Giant because their wave ended up dying for free. But imagine if that warp hadn't happened. Imagine if there had been a second Siege Giant here the entire time. This Siege Giant would be dead by now. This wave would be matched with this wave, right? So even if you don't clear a wave, if you're walking by a wave and you can put free damage on it, you know, just throw a cooldown on it. It's always going to be worthwhile. What's the difference between instantaneously and instantly? I don't think there is one. Maybe there is. Maybe instantaneously. Does instantaneously literally mean in an instant? They're pretty much the same word, to be honest. Nice Sunder for the disengage. And again, red team doesn't actually want to fight here. Red team's like, we're so close to 20. We know this is a 5v5. This is an even fight. We could have an uneven fight in like 40 seconds from now. Why don't we just have an uneven fight 40 seconds from now? Trank does get popped pretty much at the start here. But they do end up getting the kill on a new Brack. And now it's an uneven fight. Now they'll be like, sure. Militia walking away. Wait. I can't select him. I want to know what Ironskin's cooldown is. Johanna actually dying to Pyro. Bruiser camp in the top lane doing a lot of work. This will eventually get this keep if they don't respond to it, but we do see Zagrug and Winterheart and Abroli and all coming back, clearing it out. But despite all of those shenanigans, Terror picked up for the red team. This is actually a mistake. The Terror lasts for a minute. Right? You have a minute to pick up the Terror. It would be better to wait until Johanna and Lunara were rezzed and push as 5. There's no real advantage to picking up the Terror immediately. Alright, now the plant just has to wait. But they could have been waiting without the plant captured and grabbing a mercenary camp. Like, this camp is available. They could have grabbed it. And then gotten the Terror instead of just waiting around with the Terror. Because they're still wasting time on the Terror now. The Terror is going to last for like a minute and a half. They're going to have to wait for... The Terror lasts for 2 minutes, I think. They had to wait for a half a minute. They didn't need to do that. They could have just waited to pick up the Terror. And again, Li Ming and the Terror is an awful idea. Because you're giving up your source of burst damage when you have 2 sustained damage dealers. It just doesn't make sense. Kalphos ends up going down. The Godmaw again, and Nubrak gets absolutely erased. They can just kill Zybrug here. Yeah, he's gonna die. And I don't see how blue team wins this game at this point. But you can see that the decision-making by red team, the decisions that won in the game were pretty small. They were pretty small overall, and it's not like the game is entirely one-sided. But it came down to very small decisions about timing Merc camps correctly, chunking people in lane damage, when to get seeds, when to fight, when to rotate. Those were pretty small differences.